Hello, Automating Success Show audience. I am Joe Langton, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Jerry Fife. He is the division manager for Max Distributing. I've got to have some full disclosure here. He is someone I work with already for the Ambrogio robots, so I enjoy doing podcasts right out of the gate with people that I already have a relationship with. Jerry, this should be an easy podcast for us because we talk constantly anyway. So instead of me explaining who Jerry is, I'm going to allow Jerry to kind of give us a quick background on who he is, what he does, and the things he distributes in the United States right now.
Hey, thanks, Joe. I appreciate this opportunity, and it is great to talk to you. You're amazing what you know and how your vision for this industry. My name is Jerry Fife, as Joe said. I work for a company called Max Distributing. Who's Max Distributing? Actually, Max Distributing is a division of BCS America. BCS America is a two-wheel tractor out of Italy. They've been building products for 70, 80 years. We've been importing them for over 30 years. My job of running the division called Max Distributing is actually every other Italian product that is not a BCS product. So my job is to identify Italian products, figure out distribution for North America, and then put together a plan that makes it work. And that's what we've done with some of the products that you're working with right now, Joe. It's in a nutshell. I don't know how much detail you want into that process, but
no, that's perfect, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So of all the products right now, that you are involved in, do you have any that are most exciting to you right now?
Well, right now what we did was we brought in two different products out of Italy, and those are the two core products that we're making part of the Max distribution group's offerings. Side note, Max Distributing was named after the CEO's dog that passed away. That's how we came up with Max Distributing. So,
what kind of dog was Max then?
Black Lab. Yeah, still got a picture in his office of the dog, and when we were trying to figure out what to call the division, I had a lot of other names. We's the CEO, so he came up with Max Distributing.
And I love it, actually.
Yeah. That's awesome. But what my goal is we're going to be continually adding to this line of Italian high quality products. But right now, the two that really excite me are the two that are core products. One being our Barbieri is a manufacturer, Barbieri track hillside slope mower, remote control. You've seen it. You've had a chance to operate it.
I love it.
I love it. We just brought out the flail version, and we had it down in California, and everybody's just blown away by it because the flail is just such an aggressive machine. We have a lot of ground abatement down there that needs to happen, and we're excited about it's a remote control, so it's a safety issue with that product. And, we did some training this last week with it here in Oregon, and it was fun just to get out there and have everybody a chance to use the equipment and see what it can do. So that's a product that's a lot of fun, but mostly dear and near to me is the one that I have my background there, which is my personal Ambrogio robotic mower. I've been involved with robots for a long time. I used to work for the other company that has the big H after their name, and I actually had a robotic mower in my yard over 20 years ago.
Really?
And it was, yeah, I did.
So one of the ugly green ones.
The ugly green ones. And, it was still a very big learning curve at that time. There were still some issues. It had some issues sometimes, but it became part of the family, just like my robot is now. My mother-in-law, one time it was the one was broken down, and my mother-in-law sent it a get well card because it was broken down, because it was part of the family. So, no.
Jerry, I just had a conversation with somebody the other day about how, actually it was my last podcast guest. She's the CEO of Turtle, and she talked about she was also the inventor of Roomba, and people literally get emotionally involved with their robot.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times they don't even want their robot replaced. They actually want it repaired because they want to know that their robot that they took out of the box was the robot that's back in the yard. That's what I found. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, my wife thought I was working our robot too hard because it was going out for about 6 hours at a time to mow my lawn. Because I mow a little more than half an acre with my robot. the robot will mow 1.25 acres, but I had it mowing about a little more than half an acre. And she said, "You're making that robot work too hard. Alfred is what we call it, because the big A on front, Alfred the butler." So she said, "You're making Alfred work hard." I said, No, it's a robot. That's what it likes to do. And so, but it is part of the family, and we talk to it all the time. We watch it work. Nothing better than sitting there with your drink, watching it do all the hard work.
Yeah. Well, and for the people that are not watching this on YouTube that can't see what the robot looks like, it's the thing about Ambrogio is they're how can I put it? I always say they're like the Lamborghini or Ferrari of auto mowers. And I always say Husqvarna, the big H that he says is kind of, to me, more like the Corvette, high production. There's people see them all the time, but with the Ambrogio, like his is red in the background. It's red. What model is that one? By the way,
that's the L250 Elite S Plus. That's the top of the line of the 250 group. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there's one that's like literally carbon fiber. They're a really premium high end robotic lawnmower with premium heavy duty batteries. You kind of know when you take one out of the box how heavy it is, that you've got a real good fit and finish, so that is something I will say about them. And the biggest difference, I think, is they're using the fixed blade system. So Jerry and I have talked about this. I do think some of the thicker bladed grass, I think that I've noticed the difference with the Ambrogios personally. Yeah. So Jerry, I know we're gonna come back to talking about robots. There's a couple things I want to expand on before we get to it, and then I want to dive into your childhood and kind of what made Jerry.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, well, hey, but what sucks about getting older is, even though it's a long time ago, it happens in a blink of an eye, unfortunately, So, but I just want to say something about TracMow. So just in case we don't end up bringing it up. One of the things that I've noticed about using our TracMow that doesn't get talked about a lot is, it is good for safety. It's remote control. It fits right into what we're all doing. But what I found and how we use ours, and Jerry, I actually haven't even had a chance to communicate this to you, is, we have a lot of oak trees in Illinois, and, oaks don't like to get soil compacted. You have a 300-year-old oak tree, and I see landscapers doing it all the time. They're taking these big, heavy 12,000-pound skid steers, and they're trying to go underneath these oaks, and they're compacting that soil, and oaks don't like that soil compaction. But these machines are pretty light, and they have a track, so you're distributing that weight across the track. You don't have the operator on it, and it fits underneath. So like if you have oak trees with really low limbs, what I like about it is I don't have to worry about the ROPS bar hitting the trees, ripping down branches. I can actually go in and clear buckthorn and clear all the invasive species around all these like hardwoods without worrying about the root structure and without worrying about my operator and, poking their eyes and stuff. So I do just want to elaborate and expand on why they're remote control and what they're actually doing for the operator.
That's good news. That's good to hear, because we're excited about the product. We see the opportunity. It's not an inexpensive piece of equipment, but like when I showed it to the municipality people down in California, I told them, I said, it's not inexpensive. His comment was, "What do you think the cost of a liability suit is?" One guy gets hurt. This machine just bought it. I bought a couple of these machines. Yeah, and I'm more efficient. So it's a great machine. So I'm glad you're having great experiences with it.
Yeah, I love it. Seriously, I do. I truly like it, and I'm looking forward to utilizing the flail machine. So tell us about younger Jerry. Because there's got to be something that in your past that inspired you to get into what you're into now, I would assume.
Yeah, it's been a progression. One of the things, I grew up in a single parent home. I grew up with 4 other siblings with a big family. And so if you ever wanted anything, you had to earn it yourself. You had to work for it. My first job as a paper boy, I have a twin brother, and we weren't old enough to have our own route, because they had to be, I think it was 13 at the time or something like that. So they actually let both of us do our own, share a route until we were able to bench it, and it was a great time. As you're learning as a young kid that, it doesn't matter if it's raining, doesn't matter if it's snowing, doesn't matter, if you don't want to, if we got a sports game or something going on, you still had to do your job or you didn't get paid. And so at a young age, that's been always instilled in us. If you want something, you have to work for it and put the effort in to get the results. Don't expect somebody to hand it out to you. And it's been kind of my mantra. It's something that I've tried to instill in my boys. I have 2 older sons now. They're adult sons now, and they're married and I have incredible grandkids. But one thing I've always instilled with them is work hard, do your best, be upfront, and don't take anything for granted. But enjoy. If you want something, work for it. And that's what I had to do. So that's kind of how I grew up. And then then as life grows up, I finished high school, went to a private theological college for a while because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for a couple of years. I thought I'm going to try this, which was great because that's where I met my wife, and we'll be married 37 years this year. I think 37, not 38. So
years.
Yeah,
Impressive.
so she's put up with a lot.
Yeah, as I say, that's commitment at the highest level right there.
Yeah.
So.
But she's great. And so about this point, I was looking at what I wanted to do for a career. So I was looking, the hot button back then was electronics. Everybody was into electronics. So I went to the community college in the evenings when I wasn't working because I had a family, and I was going through the process there. And I was working for a company in the RV market. About the 80s, and it's a long time ago, but in the mid 80s, the RV market did this. It did a big dive, for those who can't see the video. And basically, so there was some changes in our market. My position was eliminated. And I thought, well, what do I want to do? And my mother-in-law saw this ad for a parts person at a power equipment store, a distributorship. I thought, well, it's a job until I figure out what I want to do. And I went there, and I was there for about a year and a half. And the sales manager came up to me and said, "You're not in the right spot. You need to be a salesperson, just watching you, how you interact." And that's where I started finding out what I really like to do. We've talked about today about, getting together and seeing each other. And that's what I get excited about is face-to-face. And that's what's been very hard about this year is I spent an entire year without traveling. I've never done that in 30 plus years in sales, where I've had a whole year without traveling. And as much as my wife loves me, she does wonder when I'm going to get back on the road. So people in sales really had to reinvent
their strategies and their practice because if you're somebody that was used to being on the road and being face to face and reading people's like demeanor and facial expressions and kind of knowing like, am I talking too much? Am I talking too little? Did I lose them? Because I'm that type of salesperson too. It got difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, thank goodness for Zoom and all the other ones that you can actually put somebody on a screen because just to pick up the phone, it is difficult, So.
And without COVID, we probably wouldn't be doing this as often as we're doing it. I mean, you still would probably have your podcasts and so like this, but I mean, I'm on Zoom and Teams meetings. I think daily. I've got some meeting of some type going on, and it's a new technology that we've had to adapt to. But I'm an old school salesman. Like I say, 30 plus years in this thing. I enjoy the face to face. I enjoy just and I feel that you as our dealer in that area and your salespeople are more confident if they kind of know who we are, who I am. And that's always been my goal is when I work with our distributor networks and our dealer networks is I want them to know who I am, because if they have a question on Saturday afternoon, I want them to call me. I may not be able to give them an answer that day, but I can get it resolved. I can get it on the list to get it done. I can work on getting it done and move forward. And because people will feel better about products when they know there's support of it. And that's kind of an old school kind of mentality, and that kind of makes me excited about this next year, getting back into traveling again.
Well, at the end of the day, people still want to buy from people. I mean, when I work with the landscapers that, I help support and tell kind of what we're doing. And sometimes they'll ask me like, why are you telling me this? Are you not worried about me being a competitor? Or sometimes they're worried about me being their competitor. But we all usually seem to realize that at the end of the day, people buy from people and they they have a relationship with somebody. So yeah, I mean, like you said, the relationship means a lot. I mean, product can be great, but without relationship, what are we really doing together?
In this industry, I mean, power equipment, lawn and garden, they're not huge industries, really, if you think about it. And having been in the industry, I mean, I have a lot of friends that work for the big H. I think they do a great job. If you've ever been in one of my trainings, the first thing I tell everybody about when I'm talking about our robotic mowers is you got to give them credit. They've invested a lot of money in marketing that I could never invest, and they've educated people on the concept. So I don't have any problem with competitors. I don't have any problem because we're all in this together, and there's a big enough market.
Yes.
So that's just kind of
good competition is good to have. As long as it's good competition. If it's somebody that's totally soiling the industry or diluting it, then that's a different scenario.
That's a different situation. But generally, there's a lot of good people in this industry. And those kind of ones stay around. The ones that don't, they may or may not stay around. But
Well, I think most of the people that are in this industry, they're in it for, particular reasons. They're in it to help the environment, right? They're in it to make less noise, which is part of the helping the environment. They're in it to solve labor issues, which is a massive issue in our industry. And they're in it to fix the problems that, power equipment cause because of the evolution, because the industry's stale, right? So, people see our units and say, wow, they're too small. How can something that small do the job? But everybody forgets the fact that if you went back 20 or 30 years ago when labor was cheap, no one would think twice to push mow a half an acre yard, and it would take them a half an hour to do it because you pay them 20 or 30 bucks, But now consumers don't want to pay any more than that, but labor is increasing. So, these products, and I say it all the time, people probably get tired of hearing it, but they solve that issue where the consumer has a certain budget and they have to fit that budget. And these, it's a redundant task that nobody really wants to do.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, in my conversations with landscapers, it's got to be just one of those, crazy parts trying to figure out labor. How do you get the people to show up on Monday? How do you get them to put in their full hours? The whole thing. And that's got to be difficult at best.
Well, and what's more difficult is, you just don't want somebody that can fog a mirror. You're not just hiring people with a heartbeat. So then the issue is, okay, so when you find somebody, what I found is, and it bothers me about the industry, I'm just going to call it for what it is. You find somebody and you get them through the process, and then you go to send them for a drug test and they can't pass a drug test. And then you're like, well, this is why they're available, and these are all the things I speak to because it honestly makes me kind of, I don't know to say for what it is, it pisses me off when people will send me a message and be like, guys like you are the problem because you're taking jobs away from people. And I'm like, no, the problem I have is I can't find people that are passionate about what I'm passionate about. Yep. So I'm in this industry because I love it and I'm passionate about it. But there's not enough people that are passionate about the outdoor industry. So what I can do is I can take those limited amounts of people that are passionate about it and make them managers of accounts, or make them hardscaping people that are enhancing sites. Good. And now I don't have to have the lower paid, unpassionate people that really don't care if they're working for me or McDonald's. They just want a paycheck. I just don't have to deal with that person, which is in the long run better for my customer. So, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear me say that, but that's reality.
Well, I mean, my robot out there has showed up every day for work, has never flunked a drug test, and it hasn't used a drop of gas or an ounce of oil. Okay,
and it hasn't spilled any.
And it hasn't spilled any. And I've had this is the third season I've had mine running in my yard, and my wife's my riding lawnmower that I pull my wagon around is it finally died on me last week. And Julie, my wife, said, "Are you going to replace it?" And I said, "For what? For what? I mean, I can get something to pull the wagon around, but the reality is the robot takes care of it, my entire yard."
Yeah.
I mean, there are a couple parts that I get out there with my string trimmer, and there always will be. But what used to take me 2-3 hours on a Friday night to mow my yard, I don't even worry about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, and
that's it.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I mean the thing about them is exactly it's that time that's freed up. And I sometimes get people saying, well, I like to mow my yard, but I always say, is it the top 3 things you like to do? I always tell people, tell me your 3 favorite things to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If mowing your yard is one of those 3, then a robotic lawnmower is not for you.
Yep.
If it's not a top 3, there's no excuse to not have a robot.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'm one of those guys that used to travel a lot. So when I'd get home, first thing I do, I try to get home by Friday night, get on my lawnmower, and that was my decompression time to mow my lawn. And I would get out there, and I had a lot of background. I mean, I've worked for distributors where we were the Exmark distributors. I sold Dixon. I was a rep for Dixon, so I'm very familiar with power equipment products. And to me, getting on a mower and mowing my lawn was just kind of a get my head back for the weekend. But I tell everybody, it's just as relaxing sitting on my deck watching my mower mow as it was mowing, and I'm actually enjoying it better. And I joke about that, but it's true. I don't want to spend my time mowing my lawn. I want my lawn to always look mowed.
Yeah.
And that's what I have. And my son, who's my youngest son, who's 33 years old, they bought a house, and I said, hey, I'm going to give you a robot I had to buy it, but I'm going to give you a robot for your housewarming gift. And so we put a robot in his yard, and I go, what do you think of that? Do you want a robot? And his comment is, he's a techie guy. He's into that generation. He's like, why wouldn't I have a robot? Why would I spend time? Why do I want to spend time mowing my lawn when I'd rather spend time with my kids and, doing the other stuff and activities? He goes, if I don't have to worry about my lawn, that's the best thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, people that want to mow their yard, that's not the future generations. It's like anything that's related to technology, they love because they're growing up with technology. It's even like some days I'll walk around the house and I'll tell my stepson Gray, I'm like, yeah, I'm bored. And he's like, you got to get into video games. And I'm like, I don't like video games. I want to go on a walk. And he's like, oh, when I'm bored, I play video game. And he walked downstairs in his room and probably turned on his video game. It's different generations,
It is.
But that's good too for me. And for you also, because as I'm hiring people, it's really easy for me to find people that want to work with robots.
And that's exactly. That's where the technology of the robots make it a new exciting industry. The thing about lawn and garden, and I've had the experience of seeing it kind of evolve, is I remember when everybody rode a standard riding lawnmower, that was a big thing, and then all of a sudden zero-turn mowers came out, and everybody's like, wow, we got to get into zero-turn mowers. And that was the crazy, exciting thing. And everybody was interested in robots or mowers because of the zero-turns. And then stand-ons came out, and everybody's interested in stand-ons, And so this is the next progression in my eyes. This is robots are where we're going. And on a commercial level, I mean, you see the landscapers, the workers that come through and see the product at the shows, and they'll say, that thing's going to take my job. And I always go, this is going to make your boss more money because you can do jobs that he can make more money on, and let the mower mow the yard. This is actually going to make everybody more profitable from the commercial level.
Well, and to take that a step further, when before COVID and I was doing shows, when they would say that, I would actually say to them, oh, so you mow grass. And because the way I see it is, if they're at a show, they're not the guys mowing the grass anyways. And they're like, well, I don't mow grass. I'm like, well, it's not taking your job.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, that's a good point. And I'm like, okay, so then whose job is it actually taking? Because the people that are mowing grass would probably like to be you at the show right now. So if I actually talk to the people mowing grass, the majority of them would say, if you can give me an avenue to get off the mower every day, I would take that avenue as long as I'm working in this organization still. And in most of those jobs pay more money. The jobs that are not mowing are the higher paid jobs. So.
Well, and I always tell them the same thing along that line is that, what's the least profitable part of landscaping? It's got to be mowing lawns, because you're competing with the guy with 2 mowers in the back of his pickup. Yes. you got to be competitive. So you've got to bring the price of the mow part, and you make the money on the edging and on the trimming and on the maintenance, the actual maintenance of the property. That's where the profit is. Put the guys doing stuff that makes you money, because that's kind of why we do this stuff,
Well, and mowing's such a lost leader, and most landscapers don't take the time to even realize, landscaper looks and says, okay, well, how much money does it cost me to mow the grass, right? And they look at it as a labor issue, but, then I see people that are bagging grass and they don't calculate how much money it costs to dump the grass, and how much money it costs to walk the bag to the grass, or, they're putting it in little burlap sacks and tying them up and throwing them in the back. So how much is all the burlap costing you? I mean, there's so many expenses that they don't even think about. There's filling our landfills, or people talk about just the emissions of the mowers. But then you've got the methane and all the stuff as the grass is breaking down. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever smelled decaying grass in a pile, but it's seriously the most putrid. I mean, you feel like you go home and you smell like it. It smells so terrible, So yeah, I mean, and robot mowers just mow every day, so there's hardly any thatch,
And, it's funny because when I first moved to the property where I live now, it's a pretty nice neighborhood, and most of the people are retired, so they spend way too much time in their yard compared to me, who's traveling all the time, racing home, trying to take care of the property. But the first year I put my robot in my yard and had it mowing, the neighbor across the street says, he goes, so what are you using for fertilizer this year? He goes, because I don't see any dandelions, your yard looks good. He goes, what are you using? I said, this is the first year I didn't use fertilizer, the very first year, because it was mulching and it was feeding the lawn, actually. And I mean, they say it all the time, but I was actually able to experience it. Is my yard looked healthier, looked greener. It was better, and I didn't have to put all those chemicals in my yard. And he was just blown away. I said, no, nothing this year. This is all about the robot this year. And it's been that way for the last 3 seasons.
You're constantly returning nitrogen right back to the soil. You're not bagging it, taking it away, or you're not making it such thick thatch that it's actually killing the grass. And I mean, going to the dandelions, if a weed can't seed, it can't reproduce. So, you're basically making dandelions sterile at that point, So, I mean, it's huge. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, now that we have so many robots out, sometimes people actually think that I'm putting down like iron or putting some sort of supplement on our yards to make them look greener for marketing. And I tell them, no, seriously, like this is just what the mowers do. They just make it greener.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm a witness of the same thing in my yard, so I could agree with that. And so you could tell my passion is with my robots. I
can see that. I mean, I was going to actually ask you, like, one of my questions was going to be like, is it distribution that you're passionate about? Is it sales? Is it the robots? Is it all of these things? But it sounds like I already know what the answer is going to be.
And I mean, I've been very fortunate in my career because I've had some opportunities to do a lot of different things in the sales and the power equipment. And I mean, before I came to work here with Max Distributing, I was actually running an import company for North America from a Chinese manufacturer that builds generators. And I love the idea of working with distributors. I love the idea of working with dealers, and I love the idea of setting up a network and being able to support the network. I mean, we took a generators that everybody, you mentioned the name, they hated us, to become the second largest choice of generators with one of the largest RV suppliers out there. And basically, it was just a matter of traveling a year and a half with their sales reps, saying when they came to the market, they did do really well. They made some mistakes. Tell me what I can do to fix it. I'll take the bullets. And I stood up in front of them for a year and a half, went to all these different key dealers. I said, take me to your worst accounts. And we built up the product, and we built up the distribution network, and we built up their confidence. That's what I like to do. And that's what we're doing with these product lines. It's not like they have a negative impression. These people don't know about them. Ambrogio's been in the North America market for quite a while. They were under a different brand name, but they were still here. And so, but my excitement is we bring new distributors on board, we bring new dealers on board, explaining the product, getting them to see the value of the product, because, there's a lot of robots out there in the market right now. You could buy 10 different robots if you want to buy 10 different robots today. But, I like selling a product that I own because I believe in it. And I like explaining that and getting somebody else on board so that they can see the advantage of the product. And so it's kind of twofold. Yeah, I like my robot. I'd have a hard time selling something I really wasn't passionate or involved with or enjoy. Yeah. I mean, I still have my Kipper generator that I use. We had power outages a couple months ago. My generator worked great. My neighbor calls me up and I'm thinking, oh, what's he going to call about? And he called me and says, hey, I just want to let you know my generator's doing a great job. A buddy of mine that purchased one said, hey, it's working, it's doing its job. I like selling products that I can be confident in. I can know that, hey, at the end of the day, this robot, there's no such thing as a perfect mechanical product, but I can stand behind this product. I know that it's going to do the job, and I can recommend it to anybody I know. So
yeah. So
off my soapbox.
No, that's okay. I'm going to put you back on your soapbox. So speaking of, I mean, we know what you're passionate about, right? And so am I. So, I mean, the show is called Automating Success for a reason. So what's some things that you would say, you brought up that you don't have the marketing budget that some of these other places do. So let me help you with some of the marketing. What are some things that you believe Ambrogio, if you had a marketing budget, if you were marketing right now, what are things you'd want my listeners to know about your robots that maybe they don't know?
I guess the biggest thing is just to take a look at them and look at the features and benefits that are with the product. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, the quality of the workmanship of these Italian Ambrogio products is phenomenal. I mean, you can put us against any of our competition and put them side by side, and it's very clear who are the robotics people and who are the guys that are trying to build a robot and they get in the market. When I was doing zero-turn mowers, there were 42 people at Louisville one year selling zero-turn mowers. Half of them went away because they really weren't the quality, the expertise, the professionalism that we needed. With Ambrogio, I'll take my product, I'll put it upside side to anybody's. Maybe they have a couple things that I don't have, but I also think I can win on the fact that I have a high quality product. So the biggest thing is take a look at the product, take a look at it, give us a fair shot on it. The product is great. The range is amazing. Some people say we have too many robots.
Yeah,
we've done.
I actually am one of those people. I actually think you guys should simplify it a little bit. Not to call you out or put you on the spot, but I actually.
It's okay. And I'm not disagreeing. And, when I go back to the factory and I say, well, this is way too many robots, their comment is, well, every yard is different. And they're true. It's true. But, instead of trying to, make sure that everybody's square peg can fit in that round hole, this gives us a little more flexibility. Now, I tell distributors all the time that not every robot is for everybody. We as an importer will stock every robot we're offered, but we don't expect our distributors to do that. We expect you to figure out where your niche market is and figure out which ones, this year I went to the distributors and I said, we're going to trim down the line a little bit. These ones are kind of redundant. And the next thing we know, the factory's bringing out more robots, and we're excited about the new robots because they address a situation with a solution. That's the fun part, as I have solutions to a lot of issues that are out there with whether it be a big slope, whether it be high grass, whether it be St. Augustine grass. I have a great solutions, and that's what the factory is very sensitive on. We have an issue, we'll solve it with the product. We have made a big push on social media this last year, more even since the beginning of the year, because really I look at from a marketing point of view. Our marketing guys keep saying, "What do we want to do? Where do we want to invest our monies?" Because we don't have the budgets that some of the other guys have. I feel social media is where everybody needs, is looking at the product. And so we have an Instagram page, we have a Facebook page, we have LinkedIn page, we have our own websites. So we encourage everybody to look at those, take a look at the products, but mostly talk to people like you that have sold it and, that are installed it and know the product. That's where the real, where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, for me, one of the things we've talked about in the past is, like your unit, like you can take in, if you have a question of the slope, you can run it in remote control and actually run that slope. And before you have to install a wire anywhere, you can check that slope. I mean, that's a great feature of your guys' robot. I do have to say for the people listening. The other some of the other things that I'd like to say, and I know we've talked about it, so I'm kind of trying to drag it out, is some of the things that some people they're trying to do in robotics. And here, I'll say it like this: everybody is like sitting on the fence waiting for robots to just not have wires anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell people, in my experience, the wires are not the enemy. If you're upset, or if you're worried about wires, it just means you're not confident in yourself to get and train good installers. That's the way I see it, right?
Yeah.
And that's been kind of my secret success, is the ability to train good installers. But what's your thoughts on some of that? What are some things that Ambrogio has tried and realized it's not even worth it in the North American market right now?
Well, and that's the fun part of working with a factory that has basically been in robotics as long as these guys have, because is anytime I see something or we hear something about what our competitors are doing, one of the systems, a GPS system that one of our competitors came out with, first time, as soon as I got saw the email or the big blast all over media about it, I sent an email to the factory and I said, "What's going on? You guys are supposed to be the leaders. What are you doing?" And I went to a meeting there about 2 weeks later, and the director of sales brought me in his office and he says, "Let me show you this system. We had it 5 years ago. This is the problem with it." Another supplier, manufacturer said, "Hey, we're going to do this in this industry." And I just knew that I had just come from a meeting where they said that doesn't work. And so, we're looking at things and they're testing things. They're not looking at things today on the robots. We're looking at things, right now we're talking about our 2022 lineup, and which will offer a wireless model for those that are interested in it, but we want to make sure that they're always working on building and looking at moving the needle forward. But these guys are looking at innovation, and they've tried a lot of these things. So it's pretty fun to see that these guys can lead the way in this process if people knew what they were doing.
Yeah. So first, I have to say the quad. I'm super excited. I ordered it, so I'm waiting for it to get into my dealership, and I'm actually already have a site I think I'm going to put it at right away. One of the things that I think is awesome is the radar system. Do you want to expand a little more on that?
Yeah, and I'm not the technical one, so we want to just kind of preface that in the whole process.
But
okay.
This is I'm interviewing Jerry. I don't want to tell everybody about this. I want you to tell.
The way that it was explained to us is, you think about it is, we've tried the satellites. The problem with satellites is you have to have a clear line of sight, or you can't have objects in there, and you got to be able to get a right trajectory of the product. So that's a challenge. We looked at infrared. The problem with infrared is lenses get dirty. So our system, and it's actually going to be incorporated into the quad. It's already incorporated in the quad. They've been running this unit over in Europe for almost a year. Typically, what we do is we ask for a year of running before we bring it to the North America market. Puts us a little behind on everybody else, but the reality is I don't want to have any issues or bugs with it when I get it here. I know that it has a proven track record. So the quad has what we call a radar system. And the question came up in a meeting is, how do you think a Tesla drives in a tunnel? They're not driving off satellite. They're not driving off infrared. They're using a radar system like our old submarines used to do. You think about it. And the idea behind the quad and the way that I understand it, and our technical service manager can go into a lot more detail of it, but basically what it is, it's emitting a signal and it's reading things that are there. If the quad will never bump into a tree. It will never bump into a pole. It will sense that product. If there's a pet or a person out in the yard, it'll stop before it gets close to them, because the radar is constantly out there monitoring it, and it has a smart system on it, smart chips on it, where it actually learns it. So let's say you've got flower beds and things like that, where it's going to go over there, it's going to learn that there's a difference, and it's going to remember it. So the technology these guys are doing, the fact that it's a four-wheel drive system that works as a square. So it doesn't have the issue of worrying about trying to come down a hill. You don't have the overheating issues. You got independently four-wheel drive motors driving this thing. It's pretty cool, and we're excited about getting it.
Being a square is it's got to get incredibly close to fixed objects.
Yes.
Fences, retaining walls, because you don't have all that wasted space, the back wheels. It's a square, so that is something that I saw. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, there's YouTube videos on this Ambrogio quad. You should go watch one. They're really pretty cool. I mean, I'm quite excited about that unit.
You are going to get one of the ones that come. You are scheduled to get one of the ones. Your distributor has them on order for. That's a cool thing. But we are going to have a limited amount of them this first year because of the fact that they can't build them fast enough, and just with inventory issues. So you're fortunate to have already placed your order for one. So there's some still in the pipeline, but you definitely will have one, and you'll be blown away by what it does. So
I jump at these things. When I see them, I want one. I'm pretty sure I also ordered your solution to St. Augustine. So do you want to explain that mower?
Well, one of the issues you have with St. Augustine grass is, and this is from me learning and experiences, is we had a distributor down in Florida, and they said, we were interested in your mowers, but they have to be able to cut grass. And with St. Augustine, once again, I'm not a specialist in this field, but from what I know as a salesperson, you got to keep that St. Augustine grass around 3.5 inches minimum is where you want to have it. Our highest robot only goes 2.8 inches. So what you're running into the issue is we could hit that bare line. As long as they kept it watered, it was fine. But that wasn't the solution. We had to come up with a solution. So we reached out to the factory. They actually sent their lead engineer over here. They spent almost 3 weeks down in Florida, and they had never seen anything like St. Augustine grass. But what they found was it's not as simple as putting bigger tires on a robot and having it go up higher. That doesn't, because the problem with St. Augustine grass is it has like a mesh on the bottom of it, which gets things hung up on. And so there was a whole learning curve that they had to do and we had to do. And basically what it ended up with within, we've done almost 2 years of testing now, within like 9 months, they had a new robot for us. The new robot, which you're going to see shortly here, is basically what they did is they increased the height of it from a 3.6 from a 2.8 to 3.7. So we're high enough to cover the higher grass. Now we also have a little flexibility if you want to come down. But the other thing we did is we put steering wheels in the front. Because the problem you have is when you go out, and this is where these guys are always thinking, what's not just the problem, but how long term. The thing is with regular caster wheels is they would get stuck. They get stuck in that heavy, when the grass is heavy, the grass is thick, they will get stuck. What these wheels will actually do is they'll actually turn. They don't steer, they don't drive. They're only steering wheels, but they actually drive the mower in the correct direction. And so you don't get stuck. You don't worry about that dip where it has to get stuck a little bit. And so it's pretty amazing.
So Jerry, I want to expand on this because I try to explain this to people, and this is one of the reasons I'm really excited about this. I mean, so people, I'm all smiles. Jerry knows this. He's looking at me right now. So one of the things that I always say about the caster type setups is it's kind of like a shopping cart. If you have a shopping cart in a grocery store, you're pushing the back, you have those front wheels. And when you want to change direction, those front wheels are just going to pivot and kind of move backwards. On a grocery store floor that's tile, that works really easy. But when you get it, imagine doing the same thing in snow, or if you were in sand. Okay, you hit a point where when that wheel goes sideways, the unit has to pull that 90 degree and then get it to go back to the straight angle. Those are typically the situations where you lose traction. So on all your outer edges of the turf where the mower has to switch direction, you actually start to get some wear marks from the mower or from the wheels. And going back to that St. Augustine grass, it's like wet. It's like a web. It holds the stuff there. So I actually think it's brilliant that they came up with that. And I'm kind of hoping that if that system just works well, that just starts to become an option on a lot of the mowers. Or to me, if that works well, that'll just be the unit I start to use, because I can see it's saving a lot of issues. And even, it has to help with slope descent, would it not, Jerry?
Yep, absolutely.
Because the other thing is, if you're going down a hill, that's one of the reasons why I always tell people when you're doing an install, if it's going down even a slight hill, you want a flat spot, because if the mower has to stop and get those caster wheels to pull the other way, that's where it has issues.
Exactly.
And I really feel like this is going to solve a problem for robotic mowing in general.
It's things like this that, they put in that extra little thought into it and little planning into it that kind of separates us from everybody else. But sometimes we're the best kept secret,
Yeah.
And,
well, and that's what I'm trying to get out and talk about.
And I appreciate that.
People, so people can hear about it. So then, so talking about the too many lines, so one of the things that I've always thought was, okay, for me, for the landscapers I'm working with, I want to keep it simple. All of your newer mowers, the 4.0, the 4.0 Elite, the 4.36s, the L20s, they're all basically, they're all just a really brilliant white, coloring, touch screens, you lift it, I'm just trying to paint this to the people, you lift it open, it's like a touch screen display. That's what I'm doing. So like Jerry said, but if somebody calls me and says, I want the one that looks like a Ferrari, I can get it. I just, it's red and, but to me, those are basic. They just seem to be the best for what I do, which everybody, knows. I have mowing per acre. I have these service agreements and I'm mowing per acre. So to me, I just want what's going to last me the longest and have the least amount of problems.
And that's why Ambrogio is such a good choice. Look at the battery life in our units. That separates us from a lot of our competition. My robot, that one that you saw in the picture, that 250 Elite, it'll mow 7 hours between charges. So what I'm doing is I'm extending that life expectancy of the battery, and I'm extending so when you talk about cost of product and things like that, is my battery is going to outlast any other competitors out there because I don't mow that. I'm not going through that many charges on it. So no, I get it. But we also find is we don't expect everybody to have every robot, but we want to make sure that, for instance, when you have that one situation, you're going, I need a smaller robot. It's a leveled area. Maybe I need a little different robot. We have an option for you. That's what we want to be able to do. So, and the 20s, the 20's been an amazing robot. The L20, and I know you've done some things with that.
I love it. It looks like a little Mars rover. I do really like the L20. I think those knobby little wheels on the back. For that price point. The 16. What is it? What's MSRP on that? Like 1690 or something.
Right in that area. Yeah.
The price point on that mower is really attractive for what you get.
And that's I at first saw that mower. I'm not going to lie. My thought was it's a toy. It looks too small.
Europe, it does look.
Yeah, Europe, it was huge. They were selling the L15s, the L20s now, and they've been doing very, very well with those. But me, I look at it, and we've taken it to trade shows, and we've in the past, and we put it on counters and tops, and people walk by and say that looks like a good little toy. But I tell you, that thing will mow a quarter of an acre. It'll manage a quarter of an acre
really fast.
Yeah, and
so that's the thing about it is it moves fast.
Yep.
Jerry, that's the thing.
We're bringing out the next version up from that, the 20S Plus. That's a third of an acre, Joe. Third of an acre that little guy will mow, and will keep it mowed and managed, and that's just pretty impressive. Yeah. So, I know we're excited about.
It's pretty cool, and like I said, you can run that right off the phone, kind of remote control. So tell me. Hopefully, I don't put you on the spot with this, but are they working on a fleet app? Is there when can I expect a fleet app with Ambrogio?
Yeah, and that's a great question because we feel we have the best product in the world. We feel that we have the product from commercial to industrial to homeowner. And one of the parts that we're missing, we totally agree, is the fleet option. The ability. Now I can put as many robots as I can if I want to take the time to put in my phone app and have them work with it. But in a commercial application, we need a fleet app. We were supposed to have launched a new fleet app last year. COVID didn't help, and there were some other changes. We will have one. I'm hoping within the next 90 days. The minute I have the app, Joe's going to get a phone call because we're going to get him to experience it and try it. The one thing about Zucchetti is the manufacturer of Ambrogio. If you Google Zucchetti Spa, you're going to find the manufacturer. One thing you find out about these guys is they don't want to do something just to be as good as we don't want to be just the same fish in the pond. And they told me, we have a system we can put out. I said, give it to me. I'm missing opportunities with landscapers. And their comment was, no, we won't get it until we've exceeded the expectations. And that's why we're about, I believe, about less than 90 days out. I'm giving myself a little buffer. So
Good.
that's where I'm in. So we expect to have one this year. We expect to have one before too long here. And what the whole idea behind it is, we don't want to be just like everybody else's system. We want something that actually will help you manage that fleet in an easy to operate, easy to track. I mean, I can bring up my robot right now on an individual basis. I can tell you anytime it had a bump stop in a yard, anytime it had a stall in a yard, anytime it got stuck in a yard, I can see by how long it was running, where it was at. You're going to be able to do that on a big picture. And it's going to make managing the robots so much different. But they wanted to make sure, and they've been testing it. We always want them to test for up to a year before they bring it over here. And so that's part of our delay, but we will have it for you, Joe.
Good. Well, I mean, that's music to my ears and probably a lot of people's ears, because, you know, what, and I want to expand on this if there's anybody on the fence getting into it, is, you know, this was nothing I was going to be worried about my first year into robotics, you know, to expand on what Jerry said, you know, to go in and shut down 5 or 6, that's really no big deal. When you start getting hundreds of them, now you start looking and you say, okay, well, now all my technicians, like Jerry, you might not know this, but what I do is, like, I expect a technician to monitor 50 robots. Okay. So it's easy with the current apps that we already have in place for a technician to look and monitor 50. But in that panic moment where you get a pop-up thunderstorm and, you know, they're made to mow in the rain, they can mow in the rain, but let's face it, it's my investment and I don't want them getting flooded. You know,
Sure.
If you're going to be successful with robotics, you still interact with them as a human and you protect your asset. So we'll say, okay, well, culverts could get water in them. I don't really want them in a retention pond or the Kishwaukee River or whatever. So you park them, you know, and now your guys have rain sensors. So that gives us a step up also, because if it starts to rain, it's going to park itself. But but these fleet apps really help you in those panic moments, or frost, you know, if all of a sudden it's colder than we expected and we want to park them all. Nobody wants to park mowers for 4 hours, because when you have hundreds of them and you go one by one by one, it takes too long. So this is exciting.
Yeah.
So for anybody not understanding why I'm so excited about the Fleet app, my goal is one day to get all of the people listening to this show that are into robotics to understand why we need Fleet apps.
And we totally are in agreement on that. I mean, it's been something that we've been asking for probably 3 years now, 4 years we've been asking for it. And sometimes things take a little longer than we want, but the end result is what we want. And then, you know, we'll be talking about this next year, about what amazing Fleet app that is and how you've had it out in the field for this year and how you love how it's doing. I would rather have that than you say, well, you know, it had a lot of bugs, a lot of problems. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. Exactly. I don't want to be, you know, the guinea pig that's debugging everything. I want to take it and use it and say, yeah, I like it. You know, good job. Yep. So I mean, that's awesome. So, you know, one of the questions I typically ask is how COVID affected your business, and you kind of already started to elaborate. I mean, it slowed down the app. I'm sure it probably slowed down some business for you guys, right? I'm assuming more on a manufacturing level.
Yeah.
Explain
the factories, you know, the factory's on its 3rd shutdown right now in Italy. That could have caused some delays on the process. But they've been able to be fairly steady. As a company, we've done very well, because the BCS part of the business has done extremely well because people are at home gardening. And so that part of the business has been carrying us. But since people are at home, a lot of them are mowing their lawns. They're not looking at, well, do I want to invest in a robot at this point? So I would say that COVID has, we had a pretty good trajectory starting. It kind of leveled off. We're still waiting for that trajectory to get back into place. We think with our mix of products now, we can do that. But most importantly, from my network system and my distribution, is the face-to-face, time-to-time. Last week was the first time that we were able to actually travel. Our technical service manager and I did a trip to meet with a distributor, and we brought in their salespeople. We brought in their key dealers and landscapers, and we actually went through a bunch of training and that they were just blown away with. And then we actually went and did a demo. But you know what we also did is we sat around a big open area, socially distanced, and at night, and just sat around and visited and talked and got to know each other. And that's what I miss about with this COVID issue and how we couldn't travel. And that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. So I think we have the opportunity now. COVID hasn't been our friend. I mean, it's been difficult. I mean, let's be honest. You were sick, and I heard that your podcast, but I'm glad you're looking good now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was terribly sick. I got my vaccine. I got my first vaccine just a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, and I get my second one on, I think it's April 14th or 15th. And I tell you, I was so sick from COVID. This is something that I just can't get people some people just understand that they get it. Other people that have not been affected by COVID in a terrible way, they don't understand my feeling on this. But literally, I almost had a tear in my eye when I got that shot because it put me in such relief, because after I had COVID the way I had it, I don't want to live my life in fear. I want to go crazy with robotics. I want to become a national guy with robotics. But every time somebody coughed or sniffled around me, I almost had like PTSD. I just did not want to deal with that again. So yeah, no, it was bad. I appreciate you saying that. And people do need to take it serious, because it is, if you draw the short straw, it's very, very serious,
Well, and it is real. And like I say, it's impacting not only just us here. See, we've had things that have affected the U.S. and different parts of the U.S., but this affected the global issue. That's what's different about this that I keep trying to explain to people is Italy, is shut down. Europe has been shut down multiple times. And that affects us as a whole. And so, I mean, we've had areas, we're just now starting to open up here on the West Coast. And it's still like, I'm a social person, even for personal stuff. I mean, Friday nights are pizza night at my house. All my son's friends and all them and all of our friends come over and we do pizza. And we haven't done it for over a year. And so I'm ready to get past it, but we know it's going to take some time.
Yeah. Listen, Jerry, I love my mom and dad. I talk to them literally daily. Actually, I feel bad. I talk to my dad daily. My mom, the issue is I talk to my dad so much. It's one of those like, how's mom doing? And he always tells me. So I should probably actually talk to my mom more and ask her how she's doing instead of my dad. But the point is, I hadn't seen them for like a year, because I did not want them to get sick. So I talked to them every day. And my mom and dad finally got their second dose, and I went and saw them. And I mean, my mom like just cried. She was so happy to see me. And this is one of those things where some people, like some of my friends would be like, yeah, well, you made the decision to not see your mom for a year. But the thing that I can't get them to understand is had I been seeing my mom when I got COVID, I would have given that to her and I might have lived, but she might have died and I'd have to live with that the rest of my life. And just personally for me, that's not something that I'm willing to do, so yeah, no, it was awesome. I'm glad we're getting to a point where we, hopefully can put it behind us.
It's amazing that what we take for granted though, that we lost. That's what I took away from it was things that I took for granted. I mean, I did no problem jumping on a plane. I had no problem with having friends and family over all the time. And all of a sudden, no, that's not happening. And, even coming into our offices, we were for quite a period of time there, we were all remote. And I like the interaction with people. And so it's been a challenge, but I got my shot this week and I'm done. I did the one and done. And so now I'm waiting to see how that all comes together and I'm ready to go on vacation.
Well, good for you. Good for you. We all need it. So what, I always, if you listen to the show, and I know you do, I always talk about people's core values and, you guys have some like core values, as far as like what you're trying to do and distribute it, or just personal ones, that you and your team align yourself with.
Well, and I'm very fortunate, and I keep going back to BCS because it's a very good company, company that I chose to work for because of the core values they have, and because they align with my personal core values, and that is, do the best you can. Obviously, we in our product line, we focus on quality products that we would be comfortable with. But most on the personal level is do what's right. Treat others like you want them to be treated, and do what's right. May not always make business sense, but we do what's right. And that's our core value. Is we're gonna work towards things. I mean, we don't know. Everybody makes mistakes along the way. And then I'm the first one to say that I will make a mistake at some point, but I'll learn from it. We'll be better from it, and we'll go from it. But I'll also own up to it. And that's the cool part about the company. And then I feel personally is that I don't shy away from if we have a problem, let's deal with it. Let's figure out how to move forward, because I want the relationship to be a long-term relationship. This is what we're doing. So I don't know if that's quite the answer, but that's kind of where I come from. It's personal.
Yeah, that's a good thing about, there's no right or wrong answers here. This is the way you see it, and these are your values. So
yeah.
I mean, did you ever have any tough times in any of the business endeavors you've been in? And if so, how'd you learn from them? I mean, of course, COVID has been a time we're all going to learn from. But there's, but to kind of show that, like, we all endure. So
yeah, and every step of the way has been from whether working as a territory manager to a sales manager to a factory direct. To managing distribution networks. I have made my share of problems and mistakes. There's no doubt about it. But I kind of view them as different. Is I acknowledge up front that I'm going to make that there will be mistakes. I'm going to do my best not to.
Yeah.
And I have made my share of mistakes. I probably have done a few this week. I don't know. I can't. I'll hear from the CEO later if I have. But but the biggest thing is I look at them as, did I learn from that process? Did I learn? I always go back. I was talking to somebody not long ago about Thomas Edison. What did he do? 1,000 different versions of the light bulb before he got the one that worked.
Yeah.
I'm making a lot of mistakes, but you know what? If I'm learning from them, it's not really a mistake. It's a process. And
and now look at how many versions of light bulbs have come since that one that finally worked.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. That's the way that's one of the things I talk about or think about with robots now, and I tell people all the time, you go from that basic invention of the light bulb. I mean, now we get to pick from fluorescent, LED, incandescent, ones that look like an old-fashioned light, but it's actually LED. I mean, so.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, and it's all about the process. I'm kind of a positive person in most cases, Joe. I don't look at, I try not to dwell on a problem. I try to resolve. I'm a solution guy. My wife calls me a sheep herder because I just, I want to resolve it and move on. And so I don't try to spend a lot of time, but I do try to figure out, okay, what went wrong? How could we fix it? How do I not make that same mistake? So I've made my share, no doubt about it.
Well, people, that's the thing that I try to tell people, even when I get people like, they come like right out of college or whatever, and man, they've got the degree and they think they're just, boom, I'm educated, I'm ready to roll. And I'm like, no, now the education starts, because all successful businesses were just evolving. One of the things I just had a conversation with a guy that buys robots for me today, and I told him, like, the thing about business too is, like, the successful people, I believe, actually in some fashion kind of keep it simple. Find what works, replicate, keep it simple. Every now and then you're going to want to replicate something that you'll see is your mistake, but the success is how quick you stop that replication.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, if you're making the same problems, then there's something to be dealt with there. But and there's a lot to learn. Experience is the best tool to learn process. I think your daughter made that comment in one of your videos. You were talking to her about going to college and having to come home, and then the differences of running the business versus what she was hearing in school. When you're really doing the job and on the front lines, it's a different game. And it's you will make mistakes, but you have to learn from them.
Yeah. So is there anything I missed with stuff coming out that you're excited about that you can share, or did I kind of cover?
Well, you hit the key ones. The quad is going to be a game changer because it's got the biggest it'll go up the biggest slopes of anything else out there in the market. It's going to do almost more than 3/4, almost a full acre when it cuts. I mean, it's an amazing machine. That's exciting. The high cuts, I expect the high cuts to actually take the place of the current 4.0s and 4.0 elites.
Okay.
We'll still have some, but I expect them to take the majority of the business because people want to grow grass a little taller.
Yeah.
And, it's not just a matter of growing taller, but you got to be able to take care of everything else when you do that. And, I think people are going to do it, even though, I'm real short, quick story is I'm one of those guys, I've always mowed my yard 3.5 inches. Got to have it 3.5 inches on my riding lawnmower. It's kind of, crazy. That's why I do it. When I put my robot in my yard, it only mows 2 3/4. I have it at 2 3/4 inches. Right now, it's about almost at 2.5 because it's spring and it's growing pretty fast. And I remember having some buddies over, and my backyard sloped up in the back, and I hadn't put the mower back there yet, and so I was running a regular lawnmower. I remember standing on my deck and saying, "What do you think I'm cutting shorter, the back with the regular lawnmower or the front with the robot?" And they all thought I was cutting the back shorter because it wasn't as thick and it wasn't as healthy as it was with the robotic mower. And so, I mean, I guess I think that's going to be where people still want to go that higher grass, even though that's the case. So I think it's going to be a big mower out. So we got those, but let's not lose sight of all the other products too. I mean, my 250 Elite S Plus is a bulletproof product. I mean, I'm lazy. I don't pick up sticks after we've had a big windstorm, and I should. My robot just goes out there, cuts, does its job, and I'm a biggest fan of the 250s. My son wanted the higher tech one, so he went to the 4.0. But I tell you, the lineup's amazing, and the product's great, and it's fun to sell something you can be excited about.
Yeah, yeah,
So.
yeah. You brought up sticks and stuff, and that's something that always gets brought up by people is, what does it do with the sticks, or what does it do with the leaves? And and I always tell people, I mean, no matter what lawnmower you're using, it's never really healthy to run all those things over anyways, so,
Yeah.
But it is something to be said that the robots can go over them, and if it's too big, it's gonna bounce off it or show trapped, so just figured I'd use that statement with the sticks is
Mm-hmm.
to let people know that,
Yep.
a lot of times it just works with it anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't like them. Okay. But it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's very forgiving of my laziness.
Yeah. So, I always ask when I'm kind of ending these is, what's something you want your legacy to be? I mean, I would think at this point you've found your passion. I think there's plenty of time with the robotic industry. I mean, we're not even in an adoption phase yet,
Yeah.
So when all this dust settles in this industry, what do you want to be remembered as?
And that was one of your questions that gave me the most pause to figure out, because, you go through life, you really don't think about it. And then I had to backtrack and say, okay, what do I really, what's most important in my life? And really, I want at the end of the day, my customers to say that I actually cared about them, that I wasn't just a salesperson selling to them, that I helped their business, and that I was a man of integrity, and I said what I would do, and I did what I said, and I admitted when I was wrong. And as long as it's kind of put it on a personal level, but I mean, that's who I am. And at the end of the day, I want people to be successful. That's why I like working with direct with the distributors and dealers and stuff. Is when I see somebody that takes this business to the next level, that's fun. And I want to be known for that guy that said, I helped you be successful.
Yeah.
So I don't
know. That's awesome. And it's one of the reasons I asked, because I think, people assume, I mean, like, look, I'm a guy that has to go to you and ask you questions about can I sell this one here? Can I do this here? Right. So you're someone I have to go to, so people assume the person they're kind of going up the chain to, they're doing it for money or power or whatever. But I think it's one of the things, the reason I always ask the question is, I don't think people realize that a lot of people just want to help other people be successful,
But you do. Look at what you're doing. Look at what you're doing. You're doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, because it's such a wide open market, and it's something that I'm passionate about, just like you are.
Mhm.
And I see our industry is so cut. It's been in the past. It's been so cutthroat, and I believe if we continue that path, it's going to end up being an industry that professionals just don't want to be in. And
Yeah.
it's such a great industry. I mean, how many industries do you get to work outside, be in nature,
Mhm.
have customers that thank you for decades about what you've done for their yard or how you've made things better. Right now with robotics, to be in an industry where, everybody is trying to make vehicles electric and try to figure out what we're going to do for infrastructure and where we're going to plug them in, and what's going to happen when a car goes dead, and are you going to be towing it and all this other stuff. And I'll see memes all the time like, yeah, when the electric car goes dead, the diesel truck comes and picks it up and drives it back home. Like here's the thing: we can do so much with electric robotic lawnmowers for our environment. It's hardly ever talked about. Jerry, I don't know if you actually know the relationship I developed with Dan with Ags Up. I actually really need to get.
I actually have reached out to him, and I've talked to him a few times. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing, to see what we can do. And it's I think one of the things that I've become so passionate about. I mean, I said from the beginning I wanted to be the guy that unites the landscaping industry, but now I kind of feel like I'm evolving into that guy that wants to unite the landscape industry that we always call the green industry, but it's really not a green industry because we pollute it all the time when we're doing everything to make it green. But now to truly make it a green industry and make landscapers profitable, make them be seen as professionals, because now we're offering technology in our service line. I don't know. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, I wake up every day excited, so.
I enjoy what I do. And it sounds like you too. You do also. I mean, this is fun. And it's fun to see where we're going. I mean, it's fun to be on this ride, because the industry as it is today is not going to be the same in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now.
No.
And it's fun to be leading that process, or be part of that leading process. So
absolutely it is. Yeah, I think we're a couple lucky guys, Jerry. I got to tell you.
Don't tell that to my boss, okay? Don't tell that to the boss, okay? Because but no, I enjoy what I do. I like it, and this is where the market's going. It's fun. So,
but maybe one day I'll have to get your boss on this show. You'll have to show him.
He's an accountant as a CEO. So, but he's very involved. He has a robot. He has the same robot in his yard, and it's become part of his family. So, we could probably plan on that sometime.
I was gonna say maybe I'll put him in the hot seat one day. We'll see. You guys can compare notes and how you did. It'll be kind of fun because you've done great. Honestly, Jerry, it's been a great interview. I mean, to wrap it up, I see huge potential, in our future. I was really excited to have you on the show. We always have great conversations anyways. And I hope you realized, I feel like people get a little nervous when they come onto a podcast, but hopefully you realize it was actually pretty easy, and this will be very easily shareable for you. I hope you share it out to as many people as possible. We talked about some of the benefits of the mowers, and it's what it's all about. It's just to get everybody understanding the cool things that are out there and all the cool things that are up there that are coming.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, because it's because of things like this that we can help launch the brand even more. Because, like I said, it's the best kept secret, and you're doing a great job of helping us get the word out there. So thank you. I appreciate it. And it's great just to talk to you.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm looking forward to being face to face with you sometime soon. So
yeah, me too. Definitely. So all right, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we will be talking very soon.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, Jerry.